Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 10th Institute's webinar series. My name is Perry Scholes. I am the founder and CEO of Corporate Internship Leadership Institute, and I'm very excited to be here with you this morning. So I want to spend just a minute explaining a little bit about the 10th Institute and Corporate Internship Leadership Institute. So the Corporate Internship Leadership Institute was established in 2019. So this is a not-for-profit organization, and we had multiple things in our mission. However, the two things we're focused on mainly, first, we created an Internship Central, which is really a resume database. And the purpose of that resume database is to try to clean up the ecosystem around finding an internship that's paid internship. So companies can post jobs on Internship Central for free, as long as that internship is paid. And interns, students interested in interning, can also upload their resumes into a resume database. And that is the place where we're hoping to bring companies and students together in an environment where it's easier for them to find each other on Internship Central. Go to our website, you can find Internship Central. Second thing, which is a significant portion of our work, is the 10th Institute. So the 10th Institute really is about developing a talent pipeline focused on students of color that have committed to a college path in their life. So our program focuses on all 4 years and beyond of that college journey. So the first 2 years you'll see here is the residency program, which will get started later this year. The residency programs focus on that freshman, sophomore who's really still trying to figure out how to navigate through being in college, and also what they really want to do when they're done with their degree. And so at this period of time, students would apply to our program, and then what we would end up doing was working on personal branding with them, beginning of understanding what does it mean to have a professional brand, what's going on in your social media life, and all of the things that begin to define who you are. Also, because this journey that we're on is really about improving wealth and minimizing the wealth gap. We start very early on with financial wellness, and you'll see across all of our programs, we have a component where we talk about financial wellness. And then really early on, beginning to help a student understand business etiquette. And so students in this program, we're sort of re-engineering the campus visit, if you will. So instead of the company coming to campus, going into a conference room and doing a presentation with maybe a recruiter and maybe one other leader, we're actually going to go visit those companies. So we'll have partner companies who invite us in. We'll spend the day on that campus. We'll get to meet leaders from multiple departments, because they'll just have to walk right in to a room where our students are, and really begin to, early on in the student career, make a connection with that brand and that organization to really help them sort of make a connection. And particularly, we're doing this right in our backyards. A lot of students don't really understand the variety of jobs that exist inside companies. They think of them as either, for example, Ochsner Health, one of our presenters today is from that organization. People tend to think of it as doctors, nurses, as clinicians. There's a ton of IT jobs, a ton of accounting, finance roles there. And so what we want to do is, again, take this opportunity to re-engineer the campus visit by bringing students to that organization that partners with us in the residency program. The next program that we work on, which we're in the middle of right now, is our internship. So this is typically in that student's junior and senior year, particularly because they're more mature, They're focused on what their outcome is going to be from an academic standpoint. They're taking courses in their major area, and they're more focused on then 2 years from now being in a career. Those internships are typically 8 to 12 weeks, depending on what that organization's typical internship program is. If they don't have one, then our organization can really help them define that. We also focus on 2 summers. 2 summers shows us from research that that intern maybe in the first summer doesn't know what to expect, but for sure in the second summer, many of them are very intent on gaining relevant experience, building networks, making connections with individuals that they meet inside those organizations. And so 2 summers is where we think the magic happens. If you can find 2 really great, phenomenal summers, that's all the better. But we know that somewhere in there getting really one solid summer where you understand and you have the clarity around that internship. The other piece that we work on here is continuing to build a well-rounded citizen. So we don't create IT people, we don't create engineers, we aren't working on chemists. We're working on building well-rounded individuals and high potential talent. So we have individual development plans for our students that start out with a behavioral assessment that we put the student through and begin to layer on understanding of self-awareness, because we feel fairly confident that in the future, the leaders who are self-aware and understand how they go about doing what they do in leading is going to be the leaders that are most successful in the future. Beyond the development plan and even in tandem with it are coaches and mentors. And particularly for our program, I can tell you personally that my career took on a very different meaning when I was able to find a mentor of color in the same field in which I was working in. And that was particularly instrumental in helping me understand, as a person of color, how to navigate my career and make decisions and deal with some of the things that I had been dealing with and didn't really know how to handle. Beyond that, we'll continue to work on professional branding, LinkedIn profiles, and how do you network? How do you present yourself to corporations? Again, financial wellness, and these internship opportunities are all paid. And then the final program that we have is the alumni network. And so we've, when we have all these programs up and running, it's potential. We'll have 4 years of showing these students love. We didn't want to stop it at the moment in which they go off in their career. And quite frankly, when you think about it, the first couple of years in a young professional's career is highly critical period of time. And so we feel like it's necessary to make sure that we are still with those students during those first couple of years and helping with professional development, networking, continuing coaching and mentoring. And then particularly when I want to have some of those alumni come back and help us with our internship program and our residency program. So this is really our pipeline under the 10th Institute. And the 10th Institute really is based on the foundation of 2 books, The Talented 10th by W.E.B. Du Bois and Striving While Black, which is written by Kwame Salter, our chairman of our board. And so this is really the foundation for the organization going forward. So any more information, please email us. I'll give you information on the back end. This is really the foundation of what this organization is all about. So today we're here with 2 speakers who are well-versed in recruiting talent, working with organizations, working with individuals, and placing people into jobs, and particularly also working in diverse channels. And so we thought we wanted to have this conversation about, why is it important to have experience? It's this whole thing about like, I interview and they say, well, you don't have enough experience. The companies, when you look at some of the data, many of them say it's absolutely critical. So these 2 gentlemen are going to help us navigate through and better understand that, because they're in the throes of working with hiring managers, hiring teams and candidates, and constantly looking at resumes and experience-based and all of that stuff. So I am really excited to have both Gordon and Jacob here. I'm going to let each one of them, separately talk a little more details about themselves. But that's why we're here this morning to talk through this conversation and hopefully give you some insights into, what does it take place to land? Why is it important for you to be doing things that build your resume and for you to really have a foundation to go into an organization? Talk about what you've done. So we'll just jump right in. And so Jacob Evans is with Ochsner Health. He's working on the D&I team. He's also a board member of CILI, founding board member, as a matter of fact, and is also an alum of En-ROADS. And so, Jacob, can you just give us a little bit more about your background, and then, talk us through from your perspective of what you see going on with regards to this whole need for having experience and all of that good stuff.
Sure. Thank you, Perry, for the introduction. And good morning to my fellow panelists, Gordon Schmidt, and all of our attendees. Are excited to be speaking with you today. Very humbled to be offered this opportunity and share with you my personal journey throughout college and transitioning into my first career opportunity. And so I hope this information is very helpful. I welcome and encourage all types of feedback you have in the form of questions or comments. And so please engage as appropriately as you would like to. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to provide some helpful tips throughout today's webinar. So first and foremost, I just want to be completely honest and transparent with everyone on the call, especially our college students, regardless of what your classification is, whether you are an undergrad or graduate or a recent graduate. I think all of the information I will try to share with you should be relevant. And so first and foremost, I'm completely comfortable with sharing that I had no idea what I wanted to major in college. And so I entered as a freshman at Xavier University of Louisiana, which is located in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's the only Catholic and private historically Black college and university in the country. And so first and foremost, that's just a privilege that I was in a position to go to a school of that was founded for a great cause for people of color. And so I chose accounting as a major. I chose accounting because one of my heroes in life is my mother, and she's the best tax person I know. And so I thought, I said, why not? Give it a try, right? I got to word problems, and that reminded me that it was too wordy and too number centric for me. And so I had two options. It was either choose business management or sales and marketing. I could tell you the only reason why I chose sales and marketing over business management was because they had less students in the program. And so I was thinking, what could give me that competitive advantage? I was also, our school gender ratio was pretty much 14 women to male students, female to male students. And so there was a lot of classes where I was the only male in. And so again, competitive advantage, that's just my thought process of getting the proper, greater attention and focus that I would need amongst my peers. So, my freshman year of school, you're taking a lot of prerequisite courses, generalized courses. And so I pretty much smooth sailed towards the 3.4 GPA. After freshman year, I don't know what happened. I almost completely lost my will for instructional classroom learning. And some of us are different learners, right? Some of us are instructional learners. Some of us are visual learners. There's no right or wrong way. And so I'm basically, trying to struggle to maintain a minimum 3.0. That's what I graduated from my undergraduate studies in. And so what I did know was that, okay, I better find an alternative solution to shine, right? And so I remember one of my career center advisors telling me that, you're in a generalized degree field, right? You're sales and marketing, you're business management. Those are generalized degrees. And what I mean by that is there's not technical skills necessarily associated with them, where you'll see with job requirements that you must have these Microsoft languages or what have you that are required for you to be successful. So you're talking about your finance majors, your accounting majors, your computer information system majors. Everybody names them differently depending on the program, but they're transferable for the most part. But anyway, this means that me graduating with a generalized degree path was that the job market for me was going to be a lot more competitive, because I can tell you that the supply of candidates was, at the time, at least exceeded the demand or availability of jobs. And so again, how am I going to shine in a different light from grades? And I want to just make sure I'm not discounting grades. I just want to tell you that the combination of grades or your work experience or et cetera does not tell the whole story. But I would encourage you, if whatever you're strong at, shine in that one area. And so again, so the light for me as an undergraduate student was, I knew I had to get an internship experience, but how do I position myself as a top candidate to do that? And for me, it was through networking. And so what does that look like, when you're in school? That looks like attendance at career fairs, or any type of, divisional event that's relative to your academic program. So mine was the Division of Business. That's also becoming members and leaders of business-related organizations on campus. So for me, it was the American Marketing Association. There also was a group called Business Achievers. And so I say this to say that because, in addition to, your actual hard skills that you're learning in the classroom or on the job, soft skills are very important too. When you go into job fairs or you go into business events, soft skills are going to be important in regards to do you possess leadership qualities? How do you illustrate professionalism? What is your drive and commitment to not only learn in the roles that you're going to be assuming, but good leaders and managers want you to be able to articulate your career aspirations, and how do you plan to ascend in those roles 3 to years down the line? And that really kind of articulates your commitment to your employer of choice, or your commitment to your own career and leadership development. And I can also tell you that, they're also looking for folks that possess the soft skills in regards to the ability to adapt to the culture or the environment of that industry. And I can tell you, because of the work I do in diversity and inclusion, culture is vital to one's employer morale. What do I mean by employer morale? That means you as an individual employee feeling like a valued team member in regards to the unique contributions you're going to bring to that organization. And that value could look like in terms of the rewards you receive on the job. And these are some of the questions you should want to ask in an interview. As the interviewee, please keep in mind that the interview is not one-sided. It is a two-way street. And you asking questions about, the culture of the organization, work-life balance, diversity and inclusion programs, benefits, all of these types of questions are going to help dispel the myths from some employers who may perceive younger generations as, you don't have staying power, you're only interested in the amount of pay they're offering. And so again, I'm just encouraging these type of questions that I would recommend when you're considering an employer of choice. And so just to kind of quickly recap some of these points I just shared, again, you're trying to tell a story, and it's all a part of a formula. And so please keep in mind, the thing that you can control when you're selling yourself is that ability in itself, but also being able to articulate how you want to apply yourself. How do you plan to apply yourself when you're on a job? And once you get on a job, you know, from an internship perspective, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest or your first huge learning curve in whatever professional industry that you're coming on board into. Because why? You don't know what you don't know. And you should not be expected to know much, right? The expectations is really coming in is that, you know, your mind is racing your first couple of weeks, days or weeks on a job. Is what I'm learning in the classroom, is the classroom training going to prepare me for what I'm being asked to do on a job? Or how does it translate to the work environment? And I can tell you from my personal experience, you may be the only intern in your department. You may not even have coworkers, like team members who are full-time employees in that job. But I can tell you one thing you're gonna have. You're gonna have a supervisor or a boss or whatever you want to call it. And from my perspective, that is one of the most important, if not the most important relationship at that time in your career. And it's not just because your boss signs your paycheck every week or so. It's because your supervisor as a leader has a responsibility to you as an intern. And that responsibility is in addition to the hard skill training and the resources you're going to need to be equipped to do your job every day, but it's also helping you navigate the culture of a work environment that is hard to replicate in the classroom. And that navigation is in the form of grooming. It's grooming your interpersonal communication skills. So when you're in a room with colleagues, how do you network and engage in appropriate conversations? When you're in team meetings, making sure that you're engaged, you're asking questions, you're submitting progress reports on what type of work you're doing. Professional email etiquette. I mean, I can tell you, I was writing dissertations and theses in my initial emails, and you know, I couldn't figure out why I was probably getting no responses. And so, I mean, these are just learning curve things that, yeah, they may create anxiety, but you know, you have to fail first in order to be successful. And good leaders understand that, and they're going to put you in those appropriate positions so that at the end of your internship, it's not just about the hard skills that you've learned. It's about, are you in position to be looked at as a high potential performer so I can provide you with an opportunity because I know that you've been equipped with the proper resources. And the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Gordon is that this brings me to why your experience in your particular field of study is going to position you as a top candidate for your first entry-level career opportunity. So as a hiring manager or a recruiter, yes, they are tasked with making sure they're hiring the best or the right candidate for the right job at the right time. But included in that formula is also hiring someone who has been in situations related to that job role where you've not only been successful, but you've learned from mistakes and opportunities so that when those opportunities come up again, I can assure you that you won't fail. I won't fail a second time, and I'm going to do my best to be proactive and ask questions and express that will to learn and continue to grow in your role. So I hope that information was helpful. Perry, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my personal journey. And Gordon, I look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. I got a whole page full of notes here. We got to come back to some of those points. So.
That's you know what? Thank you. First of all, again, thank you, Perry, for the invitation. Honored to be part of the panel, and then Jacob, likewise. I'm sitting here taking notes. I'm like, oh, I'm going to build this into part of it. But it's just, you know, quick history on myself, and then I'll get into a couple of pieces that I took notes on when Perry asked me to join. But I spent 30 years in corporate retail, so I did time with primarily with Target. So I spent 19 years with Target, where I worked my way from in the stores to a vice president of over 95 stores, $2.5–3 billion top line revenue, 13,000 team members, and then, you know, from there I went on to run a 1,400 store convenience store chain as a senior vice president of operations, restaurants, and facilities. And then once we ended up selling to Circle K, I started my own business as an executive recruiter, and we've gone from a one-person show to a team of 6 very talented people, and totally different learnings, but at the same time, different challenges as well, but very, very fulfilling and very rewarding. But there were a couple pieces, at Target specifically. So, we would employ anywhere from 30 to 40 interns for the summer. And it's a very competitive market to get in. It's a very regimented, true Target process that we went through. So some of these learnings came from that. But I also, in preparation for this, sent out notes to quite a few former colleagues about, hey, what advice would you give and why is it an important? So it's kind of a sum of not just myself, but other people as well. But, one of the things that kept bubbling to the top is that by engaging in an internship with an organization, you begin to build your own foundation and you begin to learn. And once you learn, you begin to determine what is it that I want to do and how do I build this? And so this isn't just about taking a job, because I would categorize internships as more of a two-way street. Once you get a job, once you start a career, you are given objectives. You create towards the revenue sharing of the organization, the productivity improvement, the expense reduction, whatever that may be. And so your goal is to kind of work towards that. But at an internship, you are encouraged to give feedback. You are encouraged to be involved in the decisions and to share, because companies are extremely curious, right? And they are relentless about, hey, what does your generation think about our organization and how can we get better? You have to find ways to articulate that in a manner that comes across as succinct, sincere, thoughtful. But all of this just goes into building your own foundation and determining who you are and your growth. That was the first piece, and it just comes up because that foundation, can take its shape in so many ways. The second thing that internships do is that they give you exposure. They give you a look behind the curtain. And Jacob discussed culture and value. It is one thing to have it on culture and value written on a mission statement on a wall in an office, but you are going to very quickly learn who lives their culture, who believes in their culture, and whose behaviors line up to what they have on the wall, to their culture. So it's just, you get to see behind the curtain, and it goes so far beyond just what's advertised. The second thing in that exposure is you're going to learn about cultural behaviors. And again, pulling from Jacob, he talked about the email and writing a thesis for his first email. You get to see things like and learn things like, who is my audience and what do they want to hear and how do they want to receive it? This is totally different from our mindset when we were in college of, let me tell you what I'm thinking, to let me package what I'm thinking the way that you want it to be packaged and how you want to hear it. These are all just little things that you learn throughout the process. Much easier to learn during an internship than it is on your first job. The next bullet point that I pull together is this will help you spark your passion. You will begin to see what it is that you like and what you don't like, what gets you up in the morning, where you gravitate, the responsibilities or projects that you volunteer for, and all of a sudden you're going to begin to shape, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to be a part of, whether it's an industry, whether it's an organization, whether it's a career field, whatever that may be, you'll see it will bubble to the top very, very quickly. And then the other thing I think it does is it helps you understand who your competition is. So I know coming out of college, I was thinking my competition is everybody else who was coming out of college. That is so not true. I used to talk about at Target all the time. People would say, oh, well, your competition's Walmart. And I'm like, no, my competition is anyone who sells something. I don't care if it's a Quick Trip. I don't care if it's a mom and pop bodega. If they sell a soda and we sell a soda, they are my competition. What do we need to do differently? What do we need to do better? What do we need to be aware of? Your competition is everyone that is in the workforce. not just looking for a job, because people looking for a job are going to find a job. People are being recruited. This is how I make my living now. We recruit people from one organization to go to another organization, and you're in competition with them. So it will help you gain exposure to your competition. The other reason I like internships is it shows your personal accountability. This shows you taking responsibility for your career, you beginning to put action steps into it, you beginning to seek out opportunities. This speaks to much as me about character and drive and initiative. And when you're sitting across the desk from a hiring manager or a panel or on a video call with hiring managers, and they say, "Tell me about yourself," and you can begin to talk about what you've learned at other organizations, they're curious. It's different than, and I can tell you, I've talked to college students who I'm like, "Tell me about your career in college," and they don't have one. It's well, I worked on the the annual event for my fraternity, for my sorority. That's good. That should be part of it. But there should also be paid experiences that show that you are responsible as well. And then lastly, becoming an intern makes you the first priority for the organization. They would much rather hire someone that they know, that they have a history with, that they have a track record of, that they have seen come to work every single day and bust their butt. And you have invested in them, they have invested in you, and it is so much easier for them to make that offer than to go someone sight unseen based off of an interview. So there are countless things. We could probably talk about this for weeks on end. And it's such a rich topic, Perry. Thanks for just broaching this. But to me, those are just a couple of things that you should be thinking about as you're determining your career path over the next 3 to 4 summers before entering into the workforce.
All right, thank you, Gordon and Jacob. So I am gonna go here and stop sharing my screen here, and we have chat. So if we have any questions, put them in chat, and we can kind of see them coming through. So just wanted to kind of unpack a couple things here with Gordon and you and Jacob. So the student, just to maybe talk about stacking up candidates, because as a recruiter, you are looking through, first of all, you got potentially some kind of system helping you screen through maybe hundreds of, even for entry level resumes, going to campuses, you're talking to students, and even if you're doing at work, you're trying to make sure that you remember those visits and those students, right? So there's an element here, even to get an internship is competitive. And so if you could just talk about, like Jacob, you were touching on having a story. So what is it that you're selling of yourself, even before you get an internship? I think that we're clear that the internship will help you and improve your odds of landing a job, but you have to get the internship, right? And so can you just kind of talk about, looking at a resume, there's no experience or there's no internship, like how difficult is that?
Jump in here first. So I think a couple things. Number one, it is difficult to look at a sheet of paper, which is what a resume is, and determine, what's the value here and how good are they going to be. But there are what I'll just classify, period, as the intangibles. So if I open a dialogue with you in a conversation and I begin to ask you about my organization, the more research you've done, the more that you can share, the more initiative you've shown is fantastic. The second thing is that it doesn't have to, you don't have to be in a defensive mode. You can play offense on this. So if there's an organization that you want to be a part of and they have internships, there are ways to find email addresses, phone numbers to reach out. LinkedIn is a great tool these days. And this is an opportunity to reach out to hiring managers and just share your interest, because that's the level of initiative that will separate you from someone who has just poured their resume into 10 different organizations.
Yeah, I guess I would add to that point is again, I'll try to level set realistic expectations, when you're talking with students because we've all been there before, right? So I think Gordon's point about yes, you can do your homework on the front end. But sometimes you may come up to that company that you've never heard of before, right? It's kind of like a random draw and point of no return and you don't want to miss an opportunity. So, it's how that candidate approaches your career booth. It's how they engage in a conversation. So, candidates have to remember the elevator speech is so important, right? It's something that you can memorize, right? It's something that you can draft beforehand. You can script it. You can practice it and it because a lot of people are going to ask you these broad questions. Tell me about yourself, and at that level, you're talking about your educational progress as a student. Why did you choose that major? Maybe the type of fields you may not know the exact position and the qualifications and the purpose of those positions, but there's some passion for what you're pursuing. There's some moral reason, and that will speak to a recruiter or a hiring manager so that way, okay, now I can point you in the direction of these type of skill sets because some of the anxiety that students have is that they see a job description and it's written in a foreign language, if I could say that, and it's not, and that's intentional, right? We have industry specific job descriptions because we are legally binded to write them that way. But as an intern or as a recruiter, it's your GPA, it's your coursework, it's those intangibles that Gordon mentioned. It's what you do outside of the classroom, right? And what I will also add to that is that there's a lot of myths out there about the traditional college path or the traditional career path. And so, what do I mean by that as a myth? That you're never going to see a job description that says you have to complete your degree in 4 years. It may say you have to have a 4-level degree equivalent, a bachelor's, etc. But it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
Yeah.
The same with a career path. If you're a generalized degree versus technical degree, there's no such thing as a traditional career path, which means that it is okay to jump from department to department or division to divisions, either within your respective organization or across those organizations. You may be coming into an internship opportunity with a rotational development program. Yep. Because what does success look like in that role? It looks like you're getting a comprehensive introduction to all of the facets of that business operations. Because again, even when you get into you can be a 5 or 10 year plus professional and still not know what your niche is. You kind of just fall into it. It's a natural. You wake up one day and you're like, I naturally, I'm not only good at this, but you know what? It ties into my personal drive, whether it makes you a better person or not. And so it's okay to not know what that is. And that's why I said these myths about what is tradition. I love to say I have a non-traditional career path because you never know where it's going to land you. And I think that's part of the excitement.
Yeah, I think that, when you're a recruiter, and I think even talk about it at the professional level, how you present yourself and the energy around that, and Jacob talked about elevator speech, that 30 to 45 seconds, it's not any longer than that, right? Impression that you leave and what you say during that period of time can make an important statement, right? And so it's about, understanding yourself and how you present yourself to people and making sure that you're leveraging the best opportunity to at least get through the first wave of, if it's particularly if you, Jacob, you talk about a career booth, if it's a career booth or even what have you, you've got that 1 minute, make the maximum of it and have clarity around that. Company is trying to measure, do you understand what you're trying to do? Because if you don't understand what you're trying to do, then I don't have time to figure it out for you. I'm trying to figure it out for my company, right? So you have to present yourself in some sort of clarified way to say, this is what I'm interested in, and this is who I am. And even if you don't have a lot of experience, presenting what you have is the first start in getting another door open so you can get more experience, right? Is that
Period. I think you're right on, and it goes about it. It just comes down to don't blend in. Don't be like everyone else. Try to come up with that elevator speech, like Jacob talked about, of how you add value and what perspective you're going to be able to bring. Right? As I changed careers, I had to do the same thing, and so no one wants to read your resume, right? They have that in front of them. It's a fact that most people look at a resume between 15 and 30 seconds. That's it, regardless of it's 2 pages, 1 page, whatever that may be. But it's about what do you do? And so, when people would ask me, tell me about yourself, what do you do? I learned that my opening catchphrase that caught people's attention is I solve problems. And just pause. And it's very simple, 3 words, but then people naturally, what's the next question that anyone's going to ask? Oh yeah, tell me like what? And then I got you, because then I'm able to launch into anything, the problems that I've solved, the different pieces, but it's just something that simple. I solve problems.
great? So one thing, our program, we're doing the work to sort of vet students and bring them in and then get them teed up for the internship. So, if we could just talk in the time that we have left, talk about, Jacob, you were touching on some of the things about learning that email etiquette and how to write. So let's say I've landed that internship, right? What is it that I should be doing as a student to make sure I get a job offer? If there's like 1 or 2 things you could share and say, this is what you should be doing once you get in that door to get you a job offer.
So I can tell you the thing that I appreciated about my experience with En-ROADS, and for those of you who are not familiar with En-ROADS, is has a similar mission to CILI in providing the talent coaching and development pre-internship and throughout your internship journey. And so you led in an internship with X company under the combined development of CILI's practice, is that you've got to leverage all of these sponsors and relationships that you have. Every boss or team leader or a CILI training advocate is going to offer you something new and fresh. And it's your opportunity to combine all that and give it back to the organization, right? You've got to be proactive and learn how to manage upward. And what I mean by that is that, you can't expect your leaders to always come to you first for assignments or direction or reaction. They want to see that hunger in you, that drive to want to learn and put your A game up every day. And so that's the benefit of coming through a program like CILI, is that, and not to say you're lacking or you're not getting something from the actual employer, but now you have an additional, this tool is, afforded to you that, it's just a great advantage to have. And so I would offer that.
Gordon?
Again, Jacob is spot on. I think the few things I would add is, take the internship seriously from day one. Show that you want to be where you are, and then, seek advice from your leaders. Ask them ways that you can improve, right? And not just the good, because naturally people are going to say, oh, you're really good at this and this. Tell them what do I need to work on? Mm-hmm. The other quick point I would say is be a team player, because that is so important in today's environment, that you can get along with others, that it's not just me, even though that's hard in an internship environment. It's got to be about team. But then after the internship, keep the connection going. Mm-hmm. Little notes like holiday well wishes to some of your superiors. a quick update on you. I know I would love that when, hey, Gordon, just wanted to bring you up to speed. We just finished up the first, just got my midterms back and here's where I am. That goes a long, long way of, hey, I'm in this competition this weekend. Would love for you to take a look at the results. Whatever it is, that type of engagement shows your professionalism and your desire to continue the relationship.
Yeah, great. And I'll close on one point that Jacob made, talk about the boss relationship. I've said repeatedly in coaching is your boss is your billboard, and that billboard is going to say something good about you, or that billboard is going to say something quiet. If that billboard's quiet, that is a message. You really want that billboard to be screaming loudly as possible about who you are, and that's your reference. That's the first person, and whether you like that person, get along with that person, what have you, that's not the point. That individual is there with the experience. Your job is to figure out how to, even if it's tough. I've had bosses that made me cry. I mean, straight up. And those were the people that I pushed me the most and I appreciated. And they were also the first ones when I called for a reference or something. They were the first one to respond in a positive manner and give you that kind of praise and stuff like that. And particularly in an organization, as you know, Jacob's in a large organization and Gordon's had a lot of experience in a large organization. Some of those leaders get reputations, and if that particular leader who's tough gives you a reputation, sometimes that's like having 10, right? Because of just how tough they are and the fact that they would really sponsor you and things like that. So getting in and doing the work that needs to be done to then get you that offer is where I think you need to show up and do that. So any sort of closing comments or things, Gordon, Jacob?
If I could share one thing, and this is a learning tool for anyone coming into the workforce, is constructive criticism is a gift. Do not take it personal. I know that's easier. It's easier said than done, but leaders want to see that you're not defensive and you appreciate the constructive criticism. The fact that a leader is taking time to give you feedback says that they care in your personal or professional growth. And so when you get that feedback, if I could tell you, there's a list of rules, but don't forget the first one. Before you say anything else, say thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Gordon?
Just really appreciate the opportunity to share the panel with you guys today, both Jacob and Perry. So thank you, and use your resources. We're all out there. If there's questions we can answer one off, don't be afraid to shoot those out, because this is all about, for us, just paying it forward and how we can help. So don't hesitate.
Great. So I want to just talk about our next webinar here real quick. We are going to have the chairman of our board, Kwame Salter, next on the 25th of March. He will be here talking to us about his book, Striving While Black, which is really a foundation for our program. And so that's coming up. We do have opportunities for internships in our program. So if you're have a student in your life, we still have opportunities. So they can apply through our website to become a fellow. Internship Central, I talked about in the beginning, upload resumes. And then we'll be doing these kind of learnings for college students. So please feel free to pass that along to people in your network. And it's a pleasure having Gordon, you and Jacob here today. And I really enjoyed this, and thank you very, very much. So I'm signing off from the 10th Institute. See you guys.